Okay.
All right. Welcome,
All right.
everyone. Thank you for coming. We're good to start.
Thank you guys so much.
Take it away, Sangeeta.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you guys so much for being here. So my name is Sangeeta. I am a designer, and I'm also the Hindu chaplain for NYU, Columbia, and sometimes Stanford University. Depends. And this is my friend Muhammad. And me and Muhammad, actually, we met through, so I sit on the board of gathering all Muslim artists and me, the Hindu puja queen, basically. So it's like, because I believe art and design is what unites people, and it's something that, you know, brings everyone together. And Muhammad actually teaches my friend Justin, who's a filmmaker, his children Persian, and that's how we met. And then he saw my pomegranate and peacock design, and so then we started talking, we had coffee, we started talking, we became good friends, and I came here for Yalda, right?
Yeah.
Yalda, which is the longest
Night of the year, winter solstice, exactly. Yeah.
And I met this wonderful lady, Satare, here, who owns this boutique along with Suravan. I don't know where, she's not here today. But you know, this is a beautiful space that it's all about community and bringing diverse cultures and communities together. And then Muhammad was also teaching his Rumi classes here, which I attended, which I love because he's very engaging, the way he explains this ancient poetry, this about his culture and everything. And today we're actually celebrating. Nowruz was on the 25th, which is the Persian New Year. And then for me, Tamil New Year is tomorrow, April 14th. And then today also we're also celebrating different New Years for Bengal, for Orissa, for Kerala, for Tamil Nadu tomorrow. So it's like, you know, for me, for Muhammad, for all of us, it's about bringing, and we're at the community boutique and cafe, it's about bringing light into our communities, especially because right now the world is chaotic. We're in such a, like, every time you turn on the news, it's just like cuckoo. So it's like, I'm like, not watching this anymore, you know? So, because I honestly believe in education, I honestly believe in education, compassion, and sharing with each other poetry, music, art, dance, design. So that's why we thank you, Satare, for helping us put together this like wonderful event. So I invited him to read from his beautiful new book, and I'm going to share with you my Persian inspired designs too, Persian collection. So Muhammad, do you want to read from your book first?
I will, but I would, we'll give you material first. We'll ask you some questions for you to
and he's also my social media consultant because I'm not very good with making videos. So as we all know, Muhammad is the king of Instagram.
When we first met, I think you brought that scarf, the pomegranate one. I thought this is incredible. People need to be made aware that such a thing exists. I mean, you go to the Met and you see every culture represented, but you hardly find kind of Persianite designs. So I wanted to start and ask you, how does a person from the south of India end up making Persian things? A lot of people today think Persian just belongs to Iran. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Can I explain this? Okay,
Yeah.
All right. So I used to be the head designer for the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And the Islamic galleries, they reopened, and I was part of that reopening as well. And they asked me to design product for the Met shop. But they also said, they kept calling it art of the Arab lands. And I'm like, no, South Asians aren't Arabs. Persians aren't Arabs. Malaysians aren't Arabs. It's like you can be Muslim, but and the only form of Islamic art that ties the entire Islamic world together is Arabic calligraphy, because it's written it's used to write the Holy Quran, it's used to decorate mosques, it's found in Morocco, Malaysia, Japan, Korea, anywhere there's a Muslim person, you're going to find Arabic calligraphy. So they're like, yeah, go do that. Yeah, I'm a big fat Hindu, where am I supposed to go find that, right? So it's like, because my dad built 3 Hindu temples also in the United States. So it's like, and plus I'm a Hindu chaplain. I know a lot about Hinduism. So I went to NYU and I learned, and my language professor is Egyptian. And I told him, I said, Ustad ji, I really want to learn Arabic calligraphy. Can you please find me a teacher? And he found me Majid Saif, who's Palestinian, who's an Arab, from the UN, because they both work for the UN. So I got a degree in Arabic calligraphy. I threw a huge temper tantrum, and I got a degree in Arabic calligraphy, and I took all this knowledge back to the museum. But unfortunately, at the museum, back then they tended to be very Islamophobic. I had to airbrush out of all of these manuscripts Persian, Urdu, Arabic.
So what you're talking about is when they make those designs, when they blow up, like you're walking and the wall is covered in design. So they like the little figures, but they don't like the Persian and Urdu and whatever writing.
Arabic,
They want that airbrushed away. Wow.
Exactly. Even though if it literally just says, this elephant belongs to Shah Jahan, you know, they want it removed.
Wow.
So it's a, you know, when I saw all of this, it just, it makes me like, you know, I get really angry because it's a, you know, I grew up with a lot of Persians and Afghans in California. I grew up with a lot of Muslim people, Hindu people, African people, Latin people, and it's important to showcase the beauty of all these cultures within museums, but they tend to be very Eurocentric. And so with Persian designs, it's like, you know, that journey, seeing all this, working at the museum for nearly 5 years, but Muhammad, I just came back from London, the Mughal exhibition there. They've made some improvements. It just took 10 years, right? But the same Persian manuscript that I worked with, it's now up there with the full Persian language there,
so
not airbrushing.
The Mughals kind of hints at why I asked the question is this connection that Persianate culture has with South Asia that a lot of people don't imagine, that, you know, they think of India as its own entity and Persia as its own entity. So you're trying to kind of connect those culture, I mean, not to connect them, they're connected, but show the connections that exist, which is why we like that Nowruz and also your New Year are so similar. All right. Can you tell us a little bit about the designs that you brought and what inspires them?
Okay, so the pomegranate design that you like so much. So pomegranate is the national fruit of Iran, but also pomegranate is very important in Indian culture too. South India, I just found that out too. Andal, I texted you, remember, in December, right? So Andal is a poetess who is one of the exalted saints of Lord Vishnu in Hinduism. The flower that she carries is a pomegranate flower, right? They make it into a little parrot only in December time. And so anyway, so like the pomegranate, important in Iranian culture, important in Indian culture, and then the peacock feather. Peacock feathers are important in both Hinduism and Islam. In Hinduism, you see it with Lord Krishna, Lord Muruga, different Hindu deities are depicted with the peacock feather. Iran and Afghanistan, they use it as bookmarks for the Holy Quran.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes in the turban also, you see in the depictions a little turban feather.
Yeah,
absolutely.
They carry that. So that's the story behind this design, right?
And there's a secret other reason you picked the pomegranate. You didn't tell them.
What?
That all the diaspora kids love to post poems about pomegranates and, oh, we miss the pomegranates. Come on, you guys must have seen this stuff.
No.
Joking. I'm joking. That was a joke.
No.
Sorry. Anyway.
Because you're the king of Instagram. That's why you know these things.
There's other ones though. So okay, what about that one right there? I want to.
Which one?
I actually don't even know. I know the story about this one.
Pomegranate. I don't know. Like I grew up hearing this. Now you're more versed in our culture than I am.
No.
But like, there's a folklore story with pomegranate that because it's like a main fruit for like our culture, is that you're not allowed to lose a seed of pomegranate because one seed of pomegranate could take you to heaven. So you have to cherish. I don't know if you.
I didn't hear.
I didn't know that. Never heard. That's so cool. That's beautiful.
You don't know which one it is, so you can't waste any of it because one could take you to heaven.
I just want to lose it because it's so tasty.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, exactly.
Heaven is an added benefit.
Plus, it's like $8 now, so it's like.
Yeah, you can't lose it because it's expensive. But
$1,
also, one could take you to heaven, so you don't want to lose that ticket.
Okay, and another one that draws my attention, and you, actually this event with your Kashkul thing inspired me to buy one because I have a few in Iran, but I can't find any. So I bought one from the internet. And I wish it would have been in time to bring it. Is this Kashkul? So it might not be so clear because they go, maybe you could show them the print.
Yeah. Okay. So
there's also the print of it as well.
The print of it, Kashkul.
So what is a Kashkul? Can you tell them? Who actually knows what a Kashkul is? Who's seen one or knows what it is? None of you guys know what it is? Okay, 2 of you. Okay, you guys have seen. Okay, that doesn't count. Okay, so no one. This is perfect. Then tell them what is a Kashkul.
So I mean, you know more the word to explain what Kashkul, the actual word, is, right? So it's like, see, for me, it's like seeing this shape. Like I've seen throughout, so after the Metropolitan Museum, it's like I travel and I've seen many museums have depictions of this like very unique, ornate bowl. Sometimes they have a Quranic verse around it, but you know, I don't like to offend anyone, so I'm not going to write Quranic verse around it or whatever. But this Kashkul is a bowl that Sufi they call it a beggar's bowl. I wouldn't call it a beggar's bowl, right? It's like what they collect alms in, essentially, because they have that detachment from the world or whatnot. But this is the same concept with like Hindu monks or Buddhist monks or Jain monks. And so it's like I also inside it's a Rumi quote. It says, "I belong to no religion. My religion is love. My heart is my temple." So because it's like weaving these traditions together, this design celebrates the interconnectedness of faiths and culture, and also the idea of traveling as well too. And there's a picture of me and Muhammad, right? That was the first night we met, and he immediately recognized this this shape. He's like, "Oh my God, that's a kashkul," and blah blah blah.
No one
right?
knows what they are.
Yeah,
I've never seen one in America. I've never heard anyone talk about it. Yeah.
And I did a whole design series on this because I also want people to appreciate these different cultures. I want people to appreciate India, Afghanistan, Iran, Pakistan, Sufi Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism. These are ideas it seems that a lot of people in the United States have no clue about. So it's like, unfortunately, it's the truth. And a lot of museums still tend to be very Eurocentric. We know everything there is to know about European art, European painters, and we all appreciate a Van Gogh or a Van Gogh's contemporary, but you know, like or like any Da Vinci or any of those kind of artists, because we know a lot about them, right? Nobody seems to know about our culture, so it's important for us to share our cultures. And so that's why I made this artwork at first. So it's like I have art prints, and these sweaters, you must order them online, but I have a coupon also for you guys as well too. So this so that's what the Sufi Bowl design is from this one. This one is the Afghan rubab, right? This one actually hangs by the mosque at NYU. I don't know if I mentioned, I'm the Hindu chaplain for NYU, and my close friend is a Sunni imam, Imam Khalid Latif, and also the Shia Sheikh Fayaz Jafar, because I can't just have one imam friend. I need two. I need one in each tradition, you know? So it's like it actually hangs by the mosque at NYU, again, about the interconnectedness of our culture. So this Afghan rubab is not just, so this was done for one of my close friends. He's a famous Afghan rubab player, Umayyan Seki. It's also the national instrument of Afghanistan, but also in Sikhism is important. Today is also Vaisakhi. So it's like all your Sikh brothers and sisters, wish them Vaisakhi today too. So that's another thing we need to celebrate. Add that to the pile. But this is a Persian verse that says in Shams Tabrizi, it says, "Disobedient palm tree that turned into an axe was not one of us. When destiny breaks us, we turn into a rubab." So it's basically promoting peace instead of destruction, essentially. And I added gym keys to the side also because, you know, I'm South Indian and that shape also. So this is the Afghan rubab design. The last design that I have, so again, like, you know, I want to see more representation in museums of different cultures so people can appreciate. Like this design, so these tiles, like I'm sure you've seen these tiles like all around different museums. And these tiles, they're used anywhere from like houses to mosques to palaces, but they're found, it basically celebrates the interconnectedness of the Silk Road. So, and also like the different faiths that took place. So you have Islam, you have Hinduism, you have Buddhism, you have China, you have Iran, you have Afghanistan, you have what's now Pakistan, South Asia, everything mixed together. But I also did a more contemporary style, like adding like gradients also to it and making it short.
What
this is an antelope.
That's an antelope?
Antelope, yeah. Because antelope apparently in ancient Iran, there's a lot of motifs of this all over the place. And these like mystical birds.
And these are little birds
too.
here as well.
Birds.
It's beautiful.
So it's like, so these tiles are found in a lot of different museum collections and also like a lot of like personal collections as well too. But I decided to redraw it and make it more contemporary so more people can wear it. So because I also try to make everything unisex, so that everybody can wear it. So that's
that caught my eye as well. I don't
that
think I've
one,
seen
yeah.
that one either. What is that? Is that a
the
scarf?
Persian tiles too.
Oh, okay.
So that's an oblong scarf, yeah.
These are oblong, okay. It's beautiful.
So that one, again, that's a thank you, Muhammad,
is
for being
excellent.
Dana White. So it's like so.
This is beautiful. I've never seen this one.
So this is also Persian tiles as well too. See, there's a lot of beauty in South Asia, there's a lot of beauty in Iran, in Afghanistan, in all of these places that is never showcased to the public, unfortunately. All we see is like, you know, between Hindus and Muslims, all you see is negativity and fighting. That's all North India people, not South India. I'm telling you this right now, okay? South India, that's not how we roll. I mean, his wife went to South India. She had a great time.
That's one thing non-Indians don't understand is that, I hate to say it this way as an outsider, but India is kind of several countries in one country at one time. So people from South India have very different cultural practices, language, beliefs, etc. I mean, Iran as well, but it's kind of more distinct, I would say, in India, the differences in culture and language and whatnot. And one thing that is often understated is that Persianate culture was interacting with South India too. This is something you hear a lot. People only talk about the influence that the Mughals had in the north, but there was always connections with boats and people coming and going with South India and Persianate culture. So it's also cool that you have that connection.
What can you elaborate more in like South India? What like what historical references have they found like with Persia?
The connections that existed in the north of India went along just like land essentially. So from North India to what is modern day Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Uzbekistan. That's kind of how the Mughals came from Central Asia down there. I mean, if you look at the topographic map of India, it's kind of like flat in the north and mountainous in the south, and that's what produces the differences. So southern India had contact with the Gulf of the Persian Gulf, the southern part of Iran. So for example, people in South and Eastern India, so like in Bangladesh and southern India, they couldn't get to people in Central Asia. So a lot of the Persians who ended up in India came from Central Asia. But people in the south would go via water to places like the Arabian Peninsula, southern Iran. So for example, Hafez, who was in Shiraz, if he wanted to leave Shiraz because of political instability, his choices would have been South India, Bengal, or Baghdad to just go a little bit west. It would have been implausible for him to kind of end up in Delhi, for example. Or he could have done it, but it wouldn't have been the first choice. It'd be like, I don't know, moving from like New York to New Jersey or like California. It's easier to go to New Jersey, right? So as if you think of a world where water is a main use of transport, that was kind of part of it. Now, unfortunately, I personally, because I have the kind of more narrow range of study, I'm not as well versed in the connections between. Maybe this, you gotta. Now this is your turn. Tell me some Persian. So look into that and get back to me about the connections that southern India has with Iran and Iranians. But I mean, Iranians ended up all over India because Iran. One thing we never like to say, especially before modernity, the discovery of oil was not a very rich place, right? Because there's not much farming. It's very dry. There's not much you can do in Iran. So before the discovery of oil and modernization, if you really wanted to make money as a Persian person, you'd be better off in modern day Turkey or modern day India. So that's how a lot of us, and then we meet a lot of Indians with Persianate last names. Is kind of how that connection started. So, and I just really love all the designs that you've done. We just need to get it. We just need to get it out there more. We need these like hip Americans walking around with kashkuls and beggar bowl hanging somewhere here.
And Syrian tiles and I know, and pomegranates.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I would love that. Yep. So that's why Mr. Instagram King is going to teach me how to do all
I mean,
this.
it's really not that. I'm going to say this to you guys as well. If you want to put your work out there, it's really not that complicated. If you just learn a few formatting things and put it out there, believe me, because someone like me, if I just scrolled on my reels and that had popped up, I definitely would have bought something like that. And there's many more people like me. So it's just the world, unfortunately, rolls in the internet. Now, we promised that I would also read from this as well. So this is my new book. There's a bunch of them here. I feel like half of you have already heard it or own it. But I figured I'd read a bit from it just so that we can get a little taste of Rumi as well. Unless you guys had any questions or comments or anything as well. I didn't want to jump in, but figured it's kind of, okay. All right. So this book, I chose a section of Rumi's poetry that wasn't well translated. It's the quatrains or rubaiyat, if you know Persian, just 4-line poems. So Rumi has many thousands of poems, but these are the ones that are probably least read in Iran and hardly translated, really. So I decided to take a look at them. And also one thing I liked is that they weren't, this is like a fancy word, horatory, which is a fancy way of saying the text that is supposed to get you to be more pious or practice religion, so something that Rumi would say to his disciples. They were more kind of reflections, so to speak. So it's almost like he's writing in his own diary. Whereas when you read from his other poems, it's like you're a student learning how to be a better person. This is his personal reflections, so to speak. And they're all the ones, at least in this book, not all of them, but the ones in this book are about him and his relationship with Shams Tabrizi, who was his mentor, which is a very important part of this kind of Sufi tradition that the Kashkul is also representative of. So Rumi says, all of the pages from the east and west I filled with these laments from my pained breast. A moment spent in love is worth the world. For love may many souls be laid to rest. So in this poem, I'm a bit guilty of what I've complained about, which is kind of glossing over what makes it very unique and Persianate, is that although because of rhyme and meter I couldn't, east and west in this poem are Misr and Baghdad, Cairo and Iraq. Can anyone guess why he would say all of the pages from Cairo and Baghdad, I filled them up? Why would he mention those? What's special about those two cities in Islamicate learning? Okay, the one, you can gotta give you the answer. Yeah, so we have Azhar. It's not really, Nizamiya doesn't exist, but I mean, it's descendants, and there's some continuity there, right? There's people there who are studying from people who study, but that doesn't really exist. But Azhar still persists as an institution, right? I think it's debated, but it's interesting. The oldest continuous universities in the world, it's debated, but the ones that are in the running are all in the Mediterranean and North Africa, specifically. I think one in Italy, in southern Italy, but it's from like the 900s till now. Imagine, it's continuous with no disruption. It's been a university. So Rumi here is speaking to the fact that Sufism, this path that, again, this Kashkul is referencing, is not about book learning. It's about experiential learning. So he says, I filled up all the pages full of book learning with the emotional expression. And now he talks about love being deadly. He says, O idol, when I saw your face at once, love put me in a daze. I lost my way. Because of love for you, one day you'll see, about me, rest in peace is all they'll say. So Rumi says, one day they'll say, Falani Khuda biyamurzash, God rest his soul. And Sufism as well, they love to go into nature and observe nature and compare things and people to nature. So he says, the tallest trees fall short of your grand height. The rose saw you and ripped itself in two. Take up a mirror for the sake of God. Have you seen anyone who looks like you? So he says, Shams, hold up a mirror. Look, have you seen anyone as beautiful as you? And there's another concept in Sufism. When they would go into these mystical trances, sometimes they would tear their clothes from their collar. And then those little pieces of fabric would actually become mementos. So they would go around with like their Sufi cloak, kind of think of it as like a motorcycle club guy's jacket. Like it's part of his persona. And they would say, oh, this patch is from Bayezid's, I mean, if you know all these people, Bayezid's cloak, and this is from Junaid's cloak, and this is from so-and-so's cloak. So he says, the world is looking to your face. In love, we tear our cloaks in two. The wise know to be sane is not more sweet than to be crazed by you. So it's better to be crazy for Shams than sane and not know who he is. And there's also this concept that you have to give your heart away and trust it to the beloved fully. You can't guard it and let them in sometimes and then close it off. You have to fully entrust your love, your heart in love. No longer can I bear my heart. In love, I'll give it all to you. If I don't give my heart away, why keep my heart? What does it do? Then he says, now that I've been acquainted with your love, so many games of chance I play for you. Oh, won't you prance while tipsy in my heart? I cleared it out to make a way for you. So Rumi says, I cleared everything out of my heart. Before I entrust it to you, I emptied it out. There's nothing there but places for you to dance, Shams. So there's this other concept that if a person falls in love, they become majnoon. You guys know what majnoon literally means?
Crazy.
It's etymology. Yes, exactly. It has gone crazy. And the idea is that love strikes you and you can get cured of it, essentially, by going to an afsungar, someone who does enchantments and things like that, remedies. So they say, hey, Rumi, you've fallen in love with Shams. This is a waste of your time. Let's take you to a doctor and we'll have some enchantments for you and fix you. So he tells to the people who would say this, his love can steal a doctor's heart. What good then can my doctor do? If he reveals his beauty, then my doctor will need doctors too. Now he complains. He says, you will not glance my way at all. You think it's sin. From sin you're free. My heart wails for your rosy cheeks, but you won't even sigh for me. And now Rumi says there's two ways to get to the beloved. There's the physical and the metaphysical. So if they're physically present, that's preferred, right? But if they're not, you can go even deeper in the metaphysical element. So Rumi addresses his heart in this one. He says, bewildered heart, there's two ways to the friend. One hidden, one apparent, now depart. There is a path on foot, but if it's closed, another way is found inside your heart. And now there's this concept that repenting is good in Islam. And repenting in Islam is a bit different. It's not like Catholicism where you could, in theory, go every week and confess new sins. In Islam, you're supposed to repent once and then make it like a final repentance, and then it's truly kind of accepted, right? So my grandpa, rest in peace, if someone offered him alcohol, he would say, no, I went to the Kaaba and I repented over there. Like, I can't do it anymore. So he says, but there's this idea of breaking the false repentance. So Rumi says, I smashed repentance as if it was a glass like this, but don't worry, I won't smash this one. Love came and broke repentance as if glass. And who can mend the broken glass, O friends? Since love can mend all things, not only glass, how can we flee from love that breaks and mends? So this love will break you and mend you many times. Then he says, from when I first laid eyes upon your face, from your affliction night and day I cry. May it be poison if I drink alone. If I must live without you, may I die. It's very dramatic, as you see. We're very dramatic as people, Persians. Don't have to take it too literally. In hopes I would forget past love, my heart drinks new wine day by day. He brews the wine of love and then pours it to take my sense away. And I should have said this before I read that. I just switched sections. So the first section we read from was Yearning from Love. This is Savoring Love. So I've organized them by theme. Originally, these collections don't have any organization. They're just put in order of the letter that the poem starts with. So Aleph, just like A starts in the beginning. So, and also B. So Alpha and Beta, A, Aleph and Be start similar. Goes Aleph, Be, etc. Goes on. But I've organized them according to theme. Now for this poem, it's important to understand that haram means impermissible. So to kind of go in the opposite direction, we've talked a lot about it on social media. Maybe you guys haven't seen it, that a lot of these Rumi translations are not really that faithful to the original. I think this has kind of become common knowledge at this point. That a lot, I mean, just any text, by the way. When you go to buy a translation of a book, it's good to look into where it comes from. Chief among them, by the way, the Quran. If you want to read your religious text, it's a good idea to know who's telling you what's there, because a lot of misunderstandings and problems come from certain groups with certain ideas propagating their viewpoint of what Islam should look like. But anyway, not to dwell on that too much. Haram means impermissible. So how did I go in the opposite direction of the bad translations? I decided to start to sneak in my next collection, hopefully more, Persian words in the original English. The same way that when we put, I started to know why, to think, why is there this, there's cultural bias? When you read a highfalutin text in English, they put French and German in there, right? Don't they?
Yeah.
And they just expect, oh yeah, this is like English. You should just know it, or if you're smart enough, you should know it. So why don't we assert ourselves like that with our languages as well? And similar to these, right? We can't just expect them to respect us or think that we have aesthetics. We need to kind of forcefully say, hey, look, we have these aesthetics. We have beautiful scars. We have nice words. Or the word haram isn't just scary. It also can be in a beautiful poem. Ooh. So he says, without you, life's haram for me, my dear. Without you, life's haram for me, my dear. What life without you can there be, my dear? I swear by God that life without you is no more than death called life, you see, my dear. So then he says, and if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to interject. You can just say something. We're broken, drunk today like every day. Don't worry, rather take a lute and play. So Rumi was very fond. That's the instrument that he mentions, and this is Bargi Robab. So he says Kharab, Robab, Mihrab in the poem is the ram. So he says Robab. In this poem, actually, I didn't want to cut you off when you read it. So he says, On nakhle no khalaf ke tabar shod zema nabud. He says that no khalaf, in the translation, I'll just edit it a little bit if I can. It means you have a bad background, like you're ill-born. So that ill-grown palm tree, right? Because a palm, this is the nuance that was missing in translation. When a palm tree grows crooked and it's not going to grow well, they'll say, okay, cut it down and use it for the wood. That's where that ill-grown I'd put. That ill-grown, ill-begotten palm tree that was turned into an axe was not us. If fate cuts me down, I'll be an instrument, you could say. So I'll turn into something nice if I'm destroyed. So Rumi loved the Robab. And of course, he's from the geographical land of Afghanistan where the Robab was. And I've been so interested by this instrument to try to figure out if there's a way we can know if his Robab looked exactly like this, because instruments also evolve over time. So I just couldn't get to the bottom of this, unfortunately. Maybe someone can research it. But again, it is the sound of Afghanistan, the Robab. So that's the instrument, he says, when I say lute. Now, I would have put Robab, but the meter and rhyme constricted me. So lute is a nice one-syllable word. So he says, we're broken, drunk today like every day. Don't worry, rather take a lute and play. There are 100 ways to pray and bow for one who faces beauty as they pray. It's a beautiful sentiment, right? There's 100 ways to praise the beloved if you're praising beauty, if you're facing beauty. And now a little bit of a complaint. I'm bound to you with love and loyalty, though all you do is hurt me constantly. I'm patient, but you feel no shame at all for all the suffering that you've caused me. And now here he quotes the Quran, which he does often in his writing. And this drew a lot of ire. Actually, literally this morning, I got a message from an Iranian student who lives in Europe and he studies Islam at various places. And one of his teachers kind of admonished him severely for liking Rumi because he says Rumi is a disbeliever. Here's a list of reasons. One is that he puts the Quran into Persian poetry. And even worse, he edits some of the wording so that it can fit with the rhyme and the meter. So in Persian, he says, "Ey ishq tuam inna azabi la shadid." So this is from Arabic, which in the Quran it says, "Verily my punishment is severe." But Rumi always softens the parts of the Quran that seem mean. So he says, "Your love's a punishment, severe, and lovers are your dagger's prey. Night falls and everyone's asleep. A wolf has snatched my sleep away," which also, a wolf snatching sheep away is part of life back then. So Rumi is kind of facetiously saying, oh, it's like a wolf snatched my sleep away. Why can't I fall asleep tonight? It's because Shams has caused him to be sleepless. And now you look a bit at the jealousness of Persians. I hate to be mean, there's only a few of us here, right? But we can say we're pretty jealous, kind of jealous, intense people in this way. So imagine Shams and Rumi are walking in a garden, a beautiful garden in Konya, and he sees a rose. I sauntered in the garden with my love. I chanced to glance upon a rose while there. So he says, hey Shams, isn't this nice? I sauntered in the garden with my love. I chanced to glance upon a rose while there. For shame, how dare you, my beloved said. Why look at roses when my face is here? So if I could say it in Persian, there's only a few of us. Sham says, come sit down, sit.
Yeah. Good, sit here.
Oh,
Chair. There's a chair, there's a cushion here too.
So a modern version of that, there's only one of us. Yeah, I'll say it for you, Setar. Shams, غلط کردی اینو می‌بینی منو So now there's also this idea that the lover and beloved are as one. So there's a section of the Masnavi where Rumi says a lover and beloved were separated by a 1 year's length caravan journey. And the person goes to see their beloved for 1 year on a caravan journey. Like imagine from China to like Morocco. And they arrive at the door and they knock. And when we knock on the door in Iran, what's the conversation? It's always just two words. What do we say? Tell them.
no, my God.
When you knock, what do they say when you knock on behind the door? Push the iPhone. We say iPhone today for some reason for the door. Kia. And then what does the person reply? Manam, which means it's me. I don't know how that's supposed to identify. Literally 99.99%. Who is it? It's me. So the person knocks on the door and says, the person behind says Kia. And the person behind says Manam, it's me. And then the person says, Man nemishnasam. I don't know any me. I don't know anyone who's me. So then he goes back for a year, pondering what was wrong. And then when he arrives, he says, now I know what's wrong. And then he goes back for another year and he knocks and the person says, Kia. And then he says, Toam, I'm you. Because the lover and beloved are one. There's no difference between them. So he says, Rumi is realizing this. He says, my soul and yours have always been as one. Both what's concealed and that which meets the eye. It is naive to speak of mine and yours, for there's no mine and yours with you and I. And then, now there's always this debate about whether Rumi drank real wine or not. I always just get tired of these debates, but Rumi here himself says that love is more potent than wine. So he says, one who sees rosy cheeks and tulip eyes. So he says your cheeks are red like roses and they're round and beautiful and full of features like a tulip. One who sees rosy cheeks and tulip eyes will fill the skies and heavens with his cries. 1,000-year fermented wine won't cause the madness that a year-old love implies. So this flower tulip is very important. So we mentioned the pomegranate is from, I'll just say geographical Iran. You know, it might be from modern Afghanistan, but the vicinity. Did you guys know that tulips are also part of that? That tulips originate in geographical Iran? So the Dutch, they stole our valor because they went crazy for them. So what happened is in the 16th century, Isfahan was a splendid city. Iran, the richest it's been in its modern history was in 16th century, early Safavid Iran. Isfahan, they built it from scratch as a magnificent planned city. When you go, only Tiananmen Square, which I think is too big to even be counted as a proper square. I've been there. It's kind of disorienting how large it is. You're Isfahani, right? Isfahani is, yeah, there you go. Okay, so you can talk about it more. The Nakhchivan Square, or Maidan Shah, we used to call it 40, 50 years ago, is the most beautiful square in the world, if I can say. And I'm so quick to criticize Iran, so you know it's genuine when I say this. And it was a planned square, is what makes it so beautiful. It's a massive planned square, and outside of it, there's the Lutfullah Mosque. It's just the most beautiful architecture. All the best architecture in Iran. You see the pictures always from Isfahan. Got to give them credit where it's due. With the beautiful bridges over the water. And now imagine like 16th century London or Amsterdam. They're throwing their trash in the street. It's dirty. I mean, all the
gross.
problems. They were truly disgusting European cities in the Middle Ages. And the Europeans themselves were the first to admit it, you know. So they would come and they would see Isfahan. And that's actually where Oriental travel started, was in Isfahan in the Safavid era. Partially because Iran was starting to have problems with Turkey, and Europe didn't like Turkey. So they would bypass Turkey to trade with us and have, you know, relations with us, etc. And Europeans fell in love with Isfahan. They had nothing like it. There was no yet planned city in Europe.
Was the Kaleidoscope Mosque already built then in Isfahan, the rainbow?
No, that's in Shiraz. That's more
Shiraz.
recent.
Okay,
yeah.
that's Shiraz.
No,
okay,
that actually, I'll say this. The mosque itself is very Qajar, but the windows, I think, were inspired by what they saw in Europe. Because the Qajar,
Okay,
you guys know the
it.
pink mosque thing where it's a bunch of... So when I went there years ago, it was empty. I saw a picture. It was so full of people. Have you seen the chador picture where a woman wears a white chador and there's like all that light? There was like 500 women there yelling, saying, "Hurry up, you took your picture already." And the caption was, "I never thought I saw Persian women arguing over who gets to wear a chador." They're saying, "Give me this," because there's like limited chadors there. Like, "Give it to me now, I want to wear it now." So anyway, that's a different one. That's in Shiraz. We'll let them have that. But Isfahan is the best contemporary, contemporary loosely, architecture in Iran. By our standards, by a 5,000-year history, 500 years old is contemporary. So they would come to Isfahan, and they were just really enamored. And they took away a few things. Now, the handkerchief thing is debated. That's my theory, is that, you know, this handkerchief that Europeans had before ties, where it was kind of a fluff of fabric with paisleys? I think that might have been inspired by Safavid clothing. But the thing is
that's probably
something
this.
like that, yeah. No,
Mm-hmm.
you could do that if you just took your suit and opened your thing and just stuffed it in. Now, the other thing is high heels were Persian. High heels are Persian. That's confirmed. Yeah, high heels are Persian. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so not like the stilettos that ladies wear today, but they were much thicker. Kind of if you look at pictures of like a European king from 1800, 1700, that type of thing. And then at some point, they were associated with masculinity, and then somehow it flipped, so then men stopped wearing them. I don't know how that happened. But in any case, another thing that was Persian were tulips. So the Dutch come in Nakhchivan and they see a bunch of tulips, probably like we have today growing, and we just thought, oh yeah, this is a nice flower. And the Dutch went crazy over it. And it became such that I think their economy at some moment was just tulips. And when a crop failed, like the economy just crashed in the Netherlands. So then tulips are another cool thing for us. And another remnant of this. So do any of you know soccer or football, as we say? Do you guys know of Van Persie, the Dutch player? He was very famous in like 2004 or something like that. Van Persie is a semi-common name in the Netherlands. And it literally means the son of a Persian. Because Iranians would go create connections there. Maybe they'd bring a Persian wife, they'd fall in love with an Iranian woman. Or Iranian man would go, and somehow some people have some distant. Now he's maybe like 124th Persian, so maybe he's not fully Persian, but his name at least is a remnant of that.
That's
so
interesting.
Another
That's so
fun
cool.
fact. Anyway.
Well, you know, like tulip motif is found throughout
Really?
Mughal history, like the tulip. Because you know that like Mughal dynasty, if you guys don't know what the Mughal dynasty is, like Shah Jahan is the most famous, built the Taj Mahal, the greatest monument to love in the world, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, but that tulip motif was brought by the Persians, and so it's like it's found all
there
over,
as
yeah,
well?
all
I have
over.
to go
Like
see
if you look in the Taj Mahal, like the pillars and things have the tulip motif. So
That's so
that came,
beautiful.
yeah, because you know the language, the Mughal court was Persian.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I always say that Iranians, whenever we think about, if you say when was Persia the greatest, we always try to talk about ancient history. I think a huge mistake that the current government made, which they could have done this in a kind of self-interested way, was instead of trying to force everyone to just become religious, they could have just pumped pro-Safavid propaganda, because the Safavid era was the best era for Persianite culture, because the Safavids and the Mughals, and they were friendly with each other, and they were both rich. All of the greatest monuments, not the ancient stuff, but stuff that is like in our context, in our cities, it's all from the Safavid era. Like the Safavids didn't build the Taj Mahal, but that was in that 16th century, 17th century. So the Taj Mahal, the stuff in Isfahan, the greatest architectural remnants are from that 1500, 1600, 1700 kind of period, when there really was a huge flourishing of Persianite culture. So yeah, and it's unfortunate that that monument is now becoming like a big, the thing that you talk about a lot is commending the ties between Muslims and Hindus. And we always talk about this, is that it's become like a culture war issue because of the whole Hindu nationalism issue, and that it's a Muslim monument. But I like that it kind of triggers people that, you know, one of the most beautiful monuments in India is a Muslim thing, and that's fine. There's nothing contradictory about that.
Did I tell you about the funny story when I went to the Mughal exhibition
No,
just now
tell
in
me,
London?
tell me.
Okay, so it's like, so they have like, you know, they have the three major Mughal emperors were Akbar, his son Jahangir, and then Jahangir's kid Shah Jahan, right? So Shah Jahan, they have the Taj Mahal projected there, right? And we all know that marble making came from, the Muslims brought marble making into India. Like South India, you don't see any marble deities. If you go into any Hindu temple, they're all black granite, right? Marble came from, it might have even come from, it came from the middle of Asia or
We
whatnot,
have a lot
right?
of it in Iran. So in Iran, the parking garages are made of marble. Like you walk into an apartment building, and the ground of the parking garage is marble. And Americans, when they see that, they're like, "What?" Anyway, how rich are these people? Anyway, go ahead.
Marble,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So anyway, in the Shah Jahan exhibit, they had a projection of the Taj Mahal, like the, you know, greatest monument to love and this and that. So a bunch of those right-wing Hindu crazies that you were talking about, okay?
Yeah,
BJP or whatnot, I don't know. I
They
don't keep
didn't
up with
want it up
politics.
there?
No, they came to protest saying that the Taj Mahal was built during Mahabharata times, right? And I'm like, the Mahabharata took place in 3500
Wait, explain what
BC.
that is. Explain what that
so
is.
Mahabharata is the longest known poem known to mankind, right? It's about the kings and the cousins that lived in northern India, essentially, right? And that's where the Bhagavad Gita is an excerpt from the Mahabharata, which is the Song of God. Because, you know, the British pea-brains, when they came to India, they saw Hindus, like, you know, all doing their things. They can't keep track of, like, why are they speaking so many languages? Why are they practicing faith in so many different ways? They're like, okay, they need a Bible. We don't have a Hindu Bible.
So wait, that was codified like that then? The text you just mentioned was codified.
Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita was never a text that was so important until the British came.
They did a lot of stuff like that. So
Yeah.
even the words Hind and Hindu and these, I mean, they existed, but they were really kind of blown up out of proportion. And because they like rigid classifications, so to speak.
Yeah.
Anyway, go
they
ahead.
like to compartmentalize things.
Yeah,
Because their
absolutely.
pea brains can't understand.
Okay.
Like
So
you know,
this book you're saying is 3,500 years old?
Yeah, that's the time it takes.
And
Like
they were
BC
saying
times.
the
Okay.
building is
So-
that old?
Yeah. So the Mahabharata. No. Yeah, it was that old, right? They're protesting, and I'm just like, dummies. This took. You know, Hinduism is the oldest living faith tradition in the world. This took place during BC times. Marble didn't come to India till the Muslims brought it. This was built by a Muslim king. There was a protest in the galleries. And like my friend, he's
protesting in London.
in London, right?
Not in India.
Do you think
in
this
London,
is funded at all? Do you think any actors in India are like pushing this?
I guess, I don't know, but like basically the
unfortunate.
curator and everybody else was sitting there laughing like this, like, you guys are so dumb that you don't know that when this was built, because there is a date mark stamped on the Taj Mahal when it was built, right?
so
That a
ridiculous,
Muslim king built this for Mumtaz Mahal, his beloved or whatever. But it's like, you don't even know the dates are
unfortunate.
history? I'm
No,
like,
this is a
you're
problem in
such
Iran too. I mean, whenever human heritage becomes politicized, you just destroy a history. I mean, why not just appreciate it just for what it is instead of worrying about all these dramas? Yeah, so when I do sometimes the classes on South Asian stuff, and whenever I post Taj Mahal or Persianate stuff, there's always some big flame war in the comments about who built what. And someone says, oh, we don't demolish the Taj Mahal. They made us slaves to build this thing. I'm like, come on, guys. Like, just enjoy human heritage. Like, no Egyptian looks at the pyramids and thinks, oh, we're Muslims and we were enslaved to build this. We should demolish this thing. I mean, it's unfortunate that that these, and hopefully we can kind of mend ties with these types of events. So.
I mean, just laugh. That's it.
Hopefully,
I'm like, did you guys film it? Because I would have loved to see that and just laugh and laugh and laugh. I'm like, do you not know history? Do you not like date things? Like understand like what?
Well,
Why are
it's
you
like they're not
protesting
concerned
this?
with it, right? They want, they have political aims, and they motivate people by latching on to their emotions and their sentiments and whatnot.
I think maybe too they got irritated because it's like when you say India in the West, most people know what the Taj Mahal is. That's like our little icon or whatever of what, like, you know, Eiffel Tower for France, right?
That's very true.
So
yeah.
it's like, so, but then they're like, oh, it's a Muslim king built that. I'm like, so what? India's a secular nation filled with every single faith on this planet is practiced in India. So why not? And it's really pretty.
Yeah,
so
it is.
it's like, why not? You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
All right, here now we can read a few more poems, and we can also open it up to you guys' comments on anything.
Wait, can you tell me also Shams' history, Shams and Rumi's history? Like, when did they meet or whatnot?
Absolutely.
Like,
How
just
many of you are familiar? I mean, a few of you are, a couple of you are in my Rumi class. You guys should be familiar, I hope. But like, yeah, so just the basic of it is that Shams was completely different than Rumi. Shams was, he would be that type of person, but he wouldn't be doing the begging thing. There's a small comment on that. He would be the type of person who goes from place to place. So the type of Sufi that has a begging bowl would go from place to place seeking alms. But Shams didn't do that specific practice. He actually worked for his living. He didn't, he had a small like interest Sufi disagreement about whether you should beg or not. But he was a very advanced mystic from a young age, and he was of a very particular viewpoint within mysticism, and he was trying to find someone who could be essentially worthy of being his teacher or his student, and he traveled far and wide and met the great people of his time, including Ibn Arabi, and he wasn't satisfied with any of their abilities, but he saw Rumi as a young, we could say law student, because that's what fiqh is, essentially Islamic law. Rumi as a young law student in Damascus, and he recognized Rumi would become this person who would be worthy of his teachings, even though he wasn't yet. He was maybe like a 20-year-old man, and he goes up to Rumi and he seizes him and he says, "Oh, money changer of the world, find me." Why would he call him a money changer? A money changer, just like today when you look at the money and when I go to Istanbul and I give them US dollars, they look to see if it's real. You can tell true and false apart is the idea. So Shams says, "Oh, Rumi, you have this perception." And then he disappears. And then 15 years later, he comes to Konya and meets Rumi where he is. And through a series of interactions, it take a long time to get through them all. But essentially, Rumi is thought to be, okay, Shams says, you're ready to kind of receive my education. And they go through this mystical path together. And Rumi comes out essentially as, goes in as a normal, everyday kind of cleric, maybe not to denigrate, but just nothing special, an average person who maybe wouldn't have even been remembered in history at all. And then he comes out this kind of mystic that changes the whole world. He says, like he says, Shams, your love has set the world on fire. He kind of has a love that sets the world on fire. And Shams was a very kind of antinomian, non-standard person. He was very Socratic in a way, and not only in many ways, not only in the sense that he didn't write anything, he didn't believe in writing. He was kind of had an oratory style of teaching, but also that he rubbed most people the wrong way. Most people didn't like him, and he had the same effect. So Socrates was set, put on trial for etc., and he was executed in so many words. And Shams may have been killed or run out of town, but in so many words, the same effect happened. So he's kind of Socratic in a way. And not to say that that's weird for us, because even the Sufis, some consider Socrates a prophet. So not to say that there is any contradiction there. I believe it or not. Some of them believe the Greek philosophers are. We have this thing with the Greeks where, because they're kind of a bridge, the Westerners view them one way and we view them another way. So one thing I would say also is that the Westerners don't have what I would consider like a living tradition with the Greeks. They had like a reconstructed tradition. In the Renaissance, they looked back at the Greeks and tried to look at what was there. Whereas in the Islamicate world, we just had this continuous engagement with them. You see this a lot in cultures where they re-engage with something from the past, but it's kind of invented. Like when Turks, I'm half Turkic, right? I never heard of any one of my grandparents even talk about what we were before we were Muslims. But now you have secular Turks who say we're going to worship Tengri. And you have Italians who say, oh, we're Romans, and you have Persians who want to be ancient Persians all over again. When you try to go back, and because it has to do with modern insecurity, you try to reconstruct an existing tradition. But we had this continuous, interaction with these people, and we view them through the lens of not philosophers, but sages, prophetic even. So you see in Sufi texts, they talk about Plato and Socrates and Diogenes.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Okay.
And I mean, we say this say this to the point of annoyance that we kept the Greek tradition alive in translation when Europe was in its dark ages. But there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, Rumi was fluent in Greek. Did you guys know that?
No.
Not only as a written language, but as a colloquial language, because in Anatolia there were a lot of Greek speakers then.
No way.
So Rumi has poems in Greek, and he quotes Diogenes or talks about him, but he doesn't mention him by name. He just says "An Sheikh." An Sheikh hami gash gerd shar. migofke insanam arzus. You see this in Iran, people just like write it insanam arzus. Means so there's this episode where Diogenes goes in the market during the daytime with a lamp and he's pointing at people's faces, and he was this kind of odd figure, and they said, what are you doing? And he says, I'm looking for a human being. All I see is monsters. And this is what Rumi paraphrases as divodad malulam. I'm sick of all these beasts. And he says, insanam arzus, I'm looking for a human. And then he says they told him that which you look cannot be found. He says, well, I'll just keep looking, even if it's not to be found. So Rumi was informed. That's what makes it so interesting, is that he was drawing from Persianate things, talking about people from the Shahnameh, talking about things from the Islamic tradition, talking about the Greeks and whatnot. So he's a very, our tradition is not isolated. We're in conversation with each other.
So is that how Rumi got whiteified in the West?
I wonder,
because of the Greek connection.
No, I think, genuinely. Because I was actually just teaching a class on Attar, just a 1 hour short class, just yesterday. And I said, actually, Attar, there's no reason that he shouldn't be as famous as Rumi is. He has very similar works. Attar was very much an inspiration for Rumi. You find a lot of the same vibes in their work. And I thought, maybe it is really just that Attar died in the Far East and no community was formed around him. That also helps. But that Rumi happened to have a community of followers, but that he was right on the doorstep of Europe and also in the Ottoman Empire. The Ottomans had all their interactions. Yeah. So part of it is a bit of just a luck of the draw that he just happened to be in the part of the Islamicate world that was the door, or just in Europe. I mean, the Ottomans, they had Rumi, his community, his Mevlevi Sufi order, they had meeting houses in mainland Europe, and on the right outside Vienna there was people reading Rumi. So that kind of helps a lot as well.
Because I'm just curious, because you know how like yoga got whiteified in the West, right? Like yoga became a fitness craze in the West, even though it's a spiritual practice, right? Before it's yoga sutras, and it's like Patanjali sutras. These are like ancient religious texts about being like spiritually inclined or whatnot. But it's become a fitness craze, like everybody like on the beach or whatever, bending poses and blah blah blah. So that's why I'm like curious, like Rumi, like he talks about love a bit, I think Khalid like posted, Imam Khalid, like it's not about your ex-girlfriend or something like that, or about like wine, like actual like drinking like wine of ecstasy could be like that your
absolutely,
whatever your love for the divine or whatnot. So that's why I'm just like curious, like yoga became a fitness craze. How did Rumi become about your ex-girlfriend?
What I would say is that Rumi is about both. So he is about your ex-girlfriend and about God. That's actually one thing I dislike about that meme, is that it simplifies it in the opposite direction as well. So they contain both. I mean, yoga, if you practice it as a spiritual craft, you will also tone your body, and that's part of it, right? But I think the West, because it's secular oriented, it just prefers to capture the non-religious element of things, it's kind of how everything works here, right? Everything comes to America, and then it becomes bourgeoisified and secularized, and then it becomes okay. And that's actually one really kind of incredible thing about liberal countries, is that they're able to do that. So whenever something threatens or is different, they just take it and they just pacify it. So homosexuality was considered threatening. And in this very neighborhood, it was considered a wacky place to be, full of like village people, right?
Yeah.
And then the liberal system thought, you know what? Actually, we'll just make it boring. When you thought of a gay person 50 years ago, you thought of a person in this neighborhood living a weird lifestyle. Now you think of like Pete Buttigieg, a boring guy living in a suburb. So Sufism is a guy with long hair and he's running over hot coals and he's screaming in the market.
Oh, he runs over hot coals. Hindus run over hot coals too.
See, there's all these traditions, and also yoga. Chishti Sufis in the South Asia would do yoga as well. They even have a whole text on yoga.
They have a whole thing on that.
So then, liberalism was like, well, we don't like all that craziness, but we like some of this stuff. So they kind of just they temper it and they take what they like from it, and that's how everything works in this country, right? Our foods, right? Don't our foods go through that same process? So that's just how everything works here, and then we just have to be in a position to say, no, here's why doing that is not great. This is what you're missing out. So I don't think that there's necessarily anything, and I recently kind of came to this conclusion when actually a gay thinker laid out that point about gay life in America, and we think, wow, that's kind of what happened to Rumi. So isn't that there is like a conspiracy? Some people say there's a conspiracy or some sort, like there's, we love this idea that there's like a smoke-filled room and look on WhatsApp, look what my uncle said, that type of thing. It's just that this culture, whatever comes from outside, it passes just through a filter. And that filter will get rid of the things that they don't find interesting. And we'll say, no, it's interesting. And they'll say, well, we're not immediately convinced of it. And that's our job, is to say, no, this is why it's actually better to know Rumi as a Sufi Muslim living in 13th century Konya than to just know him as like a random Buddha-like person, you know, that type of thing. So we should go out and kind of forcefully and convincingly in a nice way say, hey, look, this is why it's worth understanding it better. This is why it's better to approach yoga as a mystical tradition and not just, you know, doing stretches, so to speak.
I see.
So I think that it really is something baked in the cake because everything happens that way here. Every ethnic food here goes to the same like 1, 2, 3 step, right? Every character, every tradition, every cultural fragment, and it's up to us to stand up because the wave is coming. You have to stand up, otherwise it'll kind of knock you over.
Yeah.
So to speak.
You're absolutely right because it's not explained clearly, because it's like I see like all like Rumi like being put in like astrology and this and that, you know what I mean? And so it's like, and then I have like, you know, like super religious scholar like that Ustād Muhammad that I told you about too, who actually helped me with this. But it's like, but you know, he's old school Afghan.
Yeah, he's accessible to our community, not to outsiders. Yeah.
So it's like our community, okay, we appreciate, but somebody in the West, they don't. They're intimidated or whatever, and it's weird because it's like, you know, like the narratives that the Western world speaks about us is in a way it's like negative and mean and like, and also like, you know, making things like something so beautiful. It is about spirituality, it is about loving like the divine that you can't see, or it could be about a person that you really love, but instead they make it so vanilla. I don't know what else to
well, it's up to us to
call
add
it,
the
you
spice
know?
to it,
Add the
basically.
spice, but bring it back, right?
Well, part of the problem is that we don't cultivate people who can do that. So other communities and cultures, they have institutions where they produce these people, right? So like, for example, we live in New York. There's so many Jewish people here. When there's anti-Semitism, they say, okay, we'll just create an institution. Even the Italians, they had the Anti-Defamation League. We'll just create an institution to represent our community and tell the greater society why they're wrong and why they shouldn't think this way in X and Y and Z. We don't really do that in any function, right? Like the Indian American community or the Indian government, instead of triggering people to protest the Taj Mahal, should create some institution where traditional Indian yoga is taught. There should be some big building here in Manhattan where you go do traditional Indian yoga. And the Iranian community, instead of building 500,000, I don't know, kebab restaurants and buying their millionth white BMW, we should put some money aside and have a Persian cultural center in Manhattan. I mean, think of how many multi-millionaire doctors exist in our community. We can't just collect, I don't know, every one of them donate $100,000 and build a massive, beautiful cultural center where we teach Farsi. And we don't do it. It's kind of our fault too, you know. Another thing is, we're not entitled to be given a fair shake in a different culture, in a different place, in a different society. You know, like, it would be like if an Italian person went to Iran and was like, whoa, you call that pizza? How dare you? Well, like, an Iranian's not just going to make a beautiful margarita. You're going to have to teach him how. You can't blame him for not knowing what he doesn't know. Like, how can I blame a random American who doesn't have any cultural context for not knowing that Coleman Barks isn't good? I have to come and be like, hey, this is better. So we also have to take responsibility. Not just it's good to complain, but to turn that energy into action.
No, absolutely, definitely. That's why we do events like this. So it's fun. No, but you know, like the representation of it, I mean, it's just it's very difficult because it's like, you know, like I just went to that museum conference in London, right? 150 white women and me.
Really?
Yeah,
Was it really that stark?
150.
Talk about the Met as well. I think I remember you had some anecdotes about working there, not just the airbrushing, but just the kind of perceptions or fighting uphill battles for, I mean, think how important it is to have someone like you in a space like that. There should be, the balance should be the opposite way. We should be in those spaces. I mean,
yes,
if you
definitely. It's like be in those spaces in the sense that, see, it's like, look, all of us, our parents are immigrants to this country, right? Because I thought about it for a long time. After I became the first woman of color in 150 years to lead a design team at the Met. And it's like I established the internship
really?
and 150 years.
There's never been one.
No, just
wow.
me. Me, Brownie, came in. Thank you.
That's great.
150 years. And I established the internship and mentorship program for women of color and international students.
At the Met?
At the Met. And that's why internships are paid now, after I advocated for this. So it's like they're now paid. They have to pay. And it's like I brought in people from Iran, from Saudi Arabia, from Korea, from Japan, from places like they wouldn't because you know who they wanted me for interns? No. They wanted girls from Upper East Side whose parents gave a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, they don't know how to draw. They don't go to
very
design
true,
schools. I need people who know how to draw.
That's
like, you know,
true.
they used to make fun of me, a lot of the people that I work with. Oh, she doesn't speak any English. I'm like, she ain't writing me a paper. I'm like, she
Wow.
needs to draw this Persian carpet. That's what she needs to do.
Yeah,
You know, she doesn't need to write a thesis on this carpet. And so it's a, you know, a lot of these battles there at the Met, I'm just like, now I think about it, like after all of these years, like what I went through, and then seeing that there's no curators of color anywhere.
Really?
At least in the Islamic section, there were 3. There was one Turkish lady, a Persian lady, an Indian lady,
better.
right? South Asia, forget it. It's the old white guy, right? He's really nice, right? From like from Victoria Albert. But if you don't experience a culture, if you don't experience a faith,
That's true,
like you and me walking down the street, how many times have Hare Krishna tried to convert you walking down the street? Okay, you know what I mean? They look at you and they want to convert you or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, people look at you differently. Just
Yeah,
the way
right. When
we
you come
look,
from the
you know what I
community,
mean?
you're right, yeah,
Community.
it's true.
But you know, like working at the Met, also there's not one black person in the African department.
No, are you serious?
there's
Even
not
now,
one.
with all kind of the
Even
cultural
now,
shifts.
Even now,
Really?
it's very
Wow.
difficult.
I would not have believed that.
Yeah, and it's like, how do you know? Like I'll take the African section for art of the what is it called? AAOA, like Asia, Africa, and Micronesia, like you know, all the Polynesian islands and things like that. It's like, you know, you bring in things from Africa, for example. They're like, I don't know if you're familiar with African spiritual traditions, but like Yoruba is one of the major ones or whatever. You bring these art objects, you think they're art objects, but they're spiritual artifacts from this community from Africa, and you bring it in and you put it in a museum without consulting like any of their priests or their religious traditions. So when you walk by there too, you get the jujus, right? You're just like, why was this even removed? Because they're not supposed to be removed from these ancestral places or whatever. But people just come in and they just take stuff like this. And the communities that are there, because they're poor, they're giving them a crap load of money, they'll take it, you know, because they got to eat, right?
That's true.
So it's this vicious cycle that starts. And unfortunate, a lot of people, like, because we're immigrants to this country, their children, they're too busy making money to
we have
send
to establish ourselves.
send kids to, like, you know, like money making profession. If you're a doctor, lawyer, engineer, guaranteed job. Someone's always going to throw up. Someone's always going to give birth. You got a job as a doctor. Someone's always going to sue someone. You're a lawyer, you know, finance, whatever. It's like, I don't even know what they do, but they make a lot of money. You know what I mean? So it's like those jobs, they want their children to be not creative, like be a museum curator. Tell me what
we are our worst enemies in this regard.
Tell me what a kashkul is. You know what I mean? But the thing is, it's important. And so it's like, and so if these children, like, are not allowed to pursue like curatorial positions or like design professions or creative, how are they going to get any representation in any of these fields, right? And so it's unfortunate, like, you know, like I was horrified when I went into African department, when I went into the South American department. Now, I'm like, do you even speak Spanish? No, nobody spoke Spanish even.
Are you kidding me?
No,
Really? To that level?
Yeah, to that level.
They didn't even know Spanish. How do you even how do you read something on an item and not even really?
But now it's slowly changing.
That's
like
shocking.
it took so long. Now I went for some because I designed that whole collection with Mexico and India or whatever. Now they brought in 4 curators from Mexico to come in, and one indigenous who speaks one of the indigenous languages. But it took them so long to do that. South Asia still, forget it. Like, you know, it's they open now at the British Museum. At least it's an Indian curator who's put together what do you call it, Asian religions, right? Like Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, and Sikhism are the ones she's focusing on. But she doesn't know anything about design. She has a book like this, Ganesha, but Ganesha's chopped in half. Why would you do that?
What do you mean chopped in half?
Like like they cropped him, right? So that his whole face is in here, just half of it, right? I'm like, who's designing this? Like, if you had someone who practices Hinduism, knows, don't do that. You know what I mean?
It's unfortunate.
Just like, it's like things like that.
Well, here, I think I can summarize the problem. These institutions, when they were built, they were basically places where, and I'm going to say this very bluntly, the housemaker wives of rich white men could do cultural activities.
Got it.
So you go to a women-led school, go to a school like Bryn Mawr or Barnard, and because women didn't work commonly back then, if you were bored, if you had maids taking care of your kids, you could go work at the Met and curate these things. But because America was not full of immigrants, it just met the needs of the society at the time, which is for high society white people to look at, oh, this is interesting, that's interesting. I went to the Ottoman Empire, I got this manuscript, and all the donations indicate that. It's all just like rich exploring white people bringing stuff back. But now that we are here, the needs of the museum are different. Our kids will go and want to see what the Persian and what the South Asian stuff is. So we just have to kind of be helpful in this transition and try to make ourselves available. And a lot of them do actually look for, in good faith, try to find people like us. But also the flip side of it, to be fair to them as well, is that there are just few people like you. I mean, if they, let's say if I said to you, I want to hire someone just like you, let's say you don't want to do that anymore. Can you name 10 candidates? Maybe you only know one or two, or maybe you know a lot because you work, but there's not a lot of us certainly hanging around. Like if you go to a Persian event or an Indian event, you wouldn't meet 30 people who are in these kind of niche cultural activity spaces. So we need to cultivate that. And anyway, I was wondering if they wanted to have any comments or questions.
You guys have any questions?
You guys, anything at all? All right.
I really liked it.
I'm glad you like that. I could read more from this, but I mean, we're not going to run away from here, so we can continue socializing after. And I would encourage you, if you like it, these are much cheaper than Amazon. I'm selling them at like a $10 discount from Amazon, and we can write something in it as well. And these are beautiful. So it said they're online.
Oh no,
You can order them. These ones are for sale. The physical ones.
Yeah, physical ones are for sale. The kashkul sweaters you have to order online, but the scarves I have here. And the prints I have here, and the scarf, if you buy a scarf, you get a gold bag.
And
too.
some of this stuff lives here. Not all of it, but some of it is, like the prints are here
prints,
usually.
I have some of my Arabic prints here because I do Arabic calligraphy, like here. This one is about bringing, like, this is Rama. In Sanskrit means one who gives joy to others, divinely blissful, the noble one. Kareem in Arabic means generous, noble, one of the 99 names of Allah. So Kabir Das was a famous Hindu Muslim poet saint from North India who wrote about the oneness of God, right? So Rama is the Rama's symbolism. Lord Rama is a bow and arrow here. And
But no,
so
read the quote though. What does the quote say? You didn't
look
read the quote.
look within your heart. Oh yeah, poet, duh. Yeah. Look within your heart. There you will find both Kareem and Rama.
So it's a syncretic
Same.
quote. You'll find both Kareem, God, and
then-
Islam and Rama.
Yeah, and Rama. Yeah, who's God. And this is my Black Lives Matter design, which won a bunch of awards for philanthropy and social justice, basically. So it basically means all faiths of the world come together, also lend a praying hand, stamp out supremacy. And red is for passion, because and anger, and then and lend a helping hand to those in need. So that's
It's
what
also
this
prayerful
is.
as well.
Prayer hands, like this, yeah. Oh yeah, you're right.
All right.
So yeah, and so then this Mohammed, did you see this one? Krishna.
I did notice that one.
Yeah, this one.
The Eid Mubarak.
The Eid Mubarak, because I told you that the Sunni Imam of NYU, Khalid, is my very close friend, and so we always pray underneath the arch. Every Eid, it's a huge Sunni prayer under the arch.
Washington Square Park.
That's Washington Square Park. But then look, this right here, I have to read the word for you. It's called.
Wait, let me see. Is it Persian?
Tiruvachi. Tamil.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Tiruvachi. You're going to learn Tamil too, okay? Tiruvachi or Prabhavati in Sanskrit. It's the ornamental, decorative pillars found in Hindu temples representing a ring of light. Nur in Islam, right? Nur is light. The endless greatness of the divine. God symbolizes knowledge, learning, meditation, all lessons to be learnt during Ramadan. The lion head represents a reminder to surrender our ego to the divine. So Islam means surrender or submission to God. Peacocks represent beauty and knowledge and the all-seeing, knowing divine in Hinduism. Their feathers are used in bookmarks for Holy Quran in many cultures. So, that's Tamazight language, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, so what does it say in? It's a North African Berber writing.
So Eid, not Berber, Amazigh. Berber is the colonizer
They commonly
term.
know it as that, but.
Eid Mubarak written on top in Arabic. Eid Ambarki Igudan in Tamazight language for my Moroccan family. We might be physically apart, but connected through our hearts and digitally. May we all meet in person soon, inshallah. That's the story behind this. Yeah, the golden Eid. This one. Right. So yeah, so it's like, so I have a lot of these different prints that are here, for sale as well too. So it's about bringing, so each and every piece has a different concept behind it too. But basically mine started out because of like, you know, I'm sick and tired of the Hindu Muslim stuff that you see on the, and I was never made aware of this till I came to New York.
Of the, the drama.
The drama
exist?
or whatever existed. Because, you know, I grew up in California with a whole bunch, in Fremont, a whole bunch of Persians and Afghans. So,
yeah, it's unfortunate. So.
And until I came to NYU, became a chaplain and became friends with Imam Khalid, it's like, and then he told me that there was some, Yavuz, did I tell you about that? That Hare Krishna monk who was there before, before Khalid?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay, yeah. So there's some Hare Krishna monk who was there. See, the thing is, most people here when you see Hinduism here in the Western world, all they know is Hare Krishna or that big temple built with slave labor in New Jersey. It's true, isn't it? It was in the New York Times. It was slave labor.
I didn't know
they
that.
brought all these people from like lower caste or whatever, and they made them build that. Yeah.
Oh wow.
The Baptist temple.
Yeah. Slave
Yeah.
labor. You saw it, right? Yeah.
Okay, so those
But
are
those are two that they know. But both those forms of Hinduism, they follow a man. They each have their own guru that they follow, right? They don't follow God in general. That's not the traditions that I'm raised with or whatever. They're very cultish, those two.
wow.
Yeah. So anyway, like there was some Hare Krishna person there before me, before NYU, and Khalid said he refused to eat with him because he was Muslim.
I've experienced this before.
Yeah,
I've experienced
and
stuff
I
like
was
this before.
horrified when he told me that because you know you're talking crap about my faith to this wonderful man who's trying to help me or whatever, and you're painting a bad picture of what Hinduism is. Meanwhile, at the South Indian temple that my daddy built, the musician is Muslim who's playing for the past 7 months. Who's been playing there is a big fat Muslim. Nobody cares in South India. But nobody ever talks about South India. I wish they would, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Because we're not showy like Bollywood. So
Yeah.
it's like we're not all over
all
Instagram.
The South
so.
Asian representation is just from Northern and South Asia. Like all
Northern,
the restaurants,
yeah,
they never have Bengali or South Indian food. It's always just like
it's
biryani
always,
and butter chicken.
Yeah,
and
butter
whatnot,
chicken.
yeah, and
Because there's
Bollywood stuff. Yeah.
Bollywood stuff because there's more of that diaspora here,
Yeah,
I
that's
guess.
true.
But South Indians, they don't really talk about all of this. They're like, what? We're human beings. Just come. That's it, you know? But it's like, I'm like, you know, you could talk about these things to educate people so that they can come and interact more or whatnot, you know? So it's like, but I don't know. But you know, that's why I initially started, was to bring peace between Hindus and Muslims is what this was started. But then it expanded more. Because it's like, because I'm trained in Indian classical music and dance, it's like, it's so intertwined, especially Qawwali. Did you see any of the Qawwalis or no at your Barzakh or no?
No, not at Barzakh.
Okay.
I saw them a different place.
The Sami brothers, right?
I did, yeah.
Like you see that there's so much Persian thrown in there, right?
There is,
you
yeah.
you notice the words in there, right? Persian, Urdu, Sanskrit. They're singing about Hindu deities as well. Like it's very difficult to explain, like to a lot of people, like what is. Like, why are there a whole bunch of brown people screaming and yelling for Islam and Hinduism? I'm like, well, that's just how we roll, right?
Yeah, it's
that's just what Qawwali is. But it's like, but people don't explain that clearly for everyone to understand what that is. That's why we're here.
Now we'll let them buy our things.
Huh?
Now we'll let them buy our things.
Yeah. So.
All right. Thanks for coming. If there's any questions, we can take them. If not, we can return to socializing. And hopefully enjoy this stuff. And if anyone would like, I can write a note or something if you'd like to come get one of
sign
the
your
books.
book.
The tulips, actually, they are also so important in Ottoman Empire.
I've noticed that in the mosque tiles,
Tulip
right?
mosque. You have a tulip mosque too.
Yes.
Yeah, I went there.
And then the one area which was pretty peaceful, named after the tulip.
Really? Where?
It's called Lale Devri.
Oh yeah, Lale. Yeah, you guys
Yes.
use the same word. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Where is this?
it's at the beginning of the 18th century.
Period.
Oh, like a period of time. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. I didn't know that the era of tulips.
Yeah.
That's great.
Did you go to Tulip Mosque? You've been there, right?
I
in
know,
Istanbul.
maybe I know it by its official name.
Representative of Ottoman Empire. You can find.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I did, maybe I know it by its like official name, but where is it exactly?
Where is the Tulip Mosque? In Istanbul. Tulip Mosque in Istanbul.
It's probably because some mosques are known in English by one name, like